Yo, what's up, everybody? What's good? Welcome to today's show, How to Thrive After Divorce. What's going on, everybody? It's your man, KaleafWins, and I'm here to have a great, informative show. Listen, before we even start, and before I bring up my homie that I know for 2 decades, that's crazy, 2 decades. The topic today is how to thrive after the divorce. This isn't a clout chase video. This isn't a, hey, let's bash somebody's ex video. Hey, no, this is about those individuals who are probably either stuck in a situation or considering their options to have a conversation with a real person who is thriving after the departure, healthy departure. And those two individuals are thriving in their spaces. Sometimes marriage might not be for you. Sometimes you both might have next levels. But enough of me having a conversation. Let me bring up the homie right now. Everybody give it up for Cortney V up in the house. You feel what I'm saying? Cortney V up in the house.
Hi.
Yeah. What's going on? How you doing?
What up? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We live, everybody. Listen, mistakes will happen. We don't care. We're having fun. We're having great dialogue. But before we even start, let me start off with my intro video, and we'll catch you on the other side and learn more about you. Let's go.
Things that I learned to be okay with after my divorce 3 years ago. I realize that for some of you, this might be a shock because I don't talk about it that often because it was 3 years ago. But with that being said, let's get started. 1, not being able to predict the future. I thought that my life was ruined after divorce, and I think that a lot of people think this way. But what I actually experienced months later were some of the happiest times of my life. And guess what? They were all unplanned. 2, other people having more, bigger, and better because they did. By me going through a divorce, everyone that hadn't meant they had better relationships than me, better faith than me, better finances than me. I learned to be okay with being the loser on some things, especially the things that didn't matter to me, so that I
That was a bar. Sorry, that was a bar. Sorry, continue.
could focus on the areas that did matter. And lastly, number 3, never getting the apology that I thought I deserved.
Oh, you preaching to some people who I was just on the phone with this week. Sorry, continue.
From multiple people, but what I decided to do was just forgive. I really hope this helps some of you.
First thing I would tell you if you're going through divorce is just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Don't quit, don't lay down. No matter how hard it gets, put on your backpack and go to the top of the mountain. Never, ever slow down. Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. The second thing I would tell you is once you can count on yourself and trust yourself to do that, is really start focusing on yourself, on how you can level yourself up and make yourself better. Don't worry about being happy or not. Don't worry about what people think about you or not. Don't worry about what the future is going to look like in 5 or 10 years from now. Worry about being a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. Don't quit. Keep leveling up. And then for me, I relied a lot on God and all that. To me, God is the truth, and I turned to God, and that's where a lot of,
You see how he got mad serious? He said God and all that at first, and then he was like, yeah. Christ help me out. He got real serious.
direction came from.
After my divorce, I thought things would just get better. Time would heal all wounds, and after a certain amount of time, I'd just be back on track. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm not saying that time doesn't help. I just wasn't doing the things I needed to do to heal and grow and move forward and actually move on from what had just happened. Because you have to grieve and heal and process emotion and figure out a plan for your next chapter. I wasn't doing any of that. So after longer than necessary, I did figure out how to put your life back together after divorce and do it in a really beautiful, big, wonderful way. This is just a reminder that if you're going through this right now, it's okay to feel the feelings and take some time. Don't forget that you've got to take the steps necessary to get to that next chapter.
I mean, listen, everybody has a different perspective. Everybody has a different background. Everybody's different. Everybody shouldn't be the same. Everybody goes through their different processes. And just for anybody that's watching this right now, this is about solutions. This is not about let's yammer and talk about the problems without talking about the pathways of an individual's singular experience. And I shared 3 other singular experiences with you guys. But before I get to Cortney, what were the things that were flaring off to you on things that they're saying and things that they went through in their journey? Because everybody has their own individual journey.
Ooh, it was so many nuggets. The part about kind of like feeling like failure, like you're watching everybody else succeed around you, and now this thing that was supposed to be like the most beautiful, the most sustained, like entity in your life is now gone. So like, how do you measure up to people who you know who are still in their marriage? What else did they say? Putting one foot in front of the other. Also, the last lady talked about, they all kind of talked about leveling up and like finding more about who you are and like digging deeper into who you are. And then at that point, kind of making your own moves to do the things that maybe you hadn't done while you were in a marriage. Several things that they said kind of hit home for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And in this conversation, I want to share with everybody else what we're going to discuss and the points we're going to hit. You know what I'm saying? Number one, getting your mind made up in the beginning processes. Number two, your first steps. A lot of people are pondering their first steps no matter what they do. Number three, how to transition when kids are involved. I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people and they're trying to navigate the process. They stay in a particular stasis because kids are involved and they might not take the next step, whether male or female. It doesn't matter, as you saw by the videos before. Number four, single life adjustment. Oh my God. I'm assuming that might be the bulk of the conversation, but we're going to keep it classy. And lastly, advice to those on the fence, and that's what we're going to discuss today. But as we get to that, let me ask you, because I've had a lot of conversations in the past 6 months, because I don't know whether it was the pandemic. People are just finding a lot of internal introspection and what they want in life after the pandemic, 4 years since that time. And it has really rocked a lot of people's perception of what they want in their life to the core. So when it comes to you, like, what was a light switch internal thought process, not scenario, because your past is none of our business. We're on the internet. But what was the internal thought process that led you to say, you know what, the light switch just went off. This is something that I need to pursue?
Yeah, so I think it was probably just that change needed to happen, but change was not happening. And it didn't seem to matter how I navigated encouraging that change. It just wasn't happening. It's difficult though, because when you think about marriage, I was married for 17 years. Mm-hmm. So when you think about like changing and how, those things happen every few years, you just have the idea that you're going to continue to grow with this person and you're going to continue to change together and all of that. But sometimes one person both people are constantly changing, but it's the direction that they're changing. And if they're changing, together, like, because you can still be making different moves and be on the same page, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But the change was happening and it wasn't really happening as a unit. Like we weren't really progressing like we needed to be progressing in that change.
And pardon me for the infantile analogy that I'm going to utilize, but remember that scene in Love and Basketball when Sanaa Lathan's character was at her fiance's basketball game and she's like, yeah, I just wrote an article. I'm really proud of it. And he was like, yeah, that's nice. She's like, well, did you read it? Yeah, I read it. What about the part where, yeah, I'll read it later. And then you saw it in her face, and that was like chip 1, chip 2. It was like death by 1,000 cuts of the differences and the changes where people are going.
Yeah.
And people, it's funny that information is so helpful because there are people that are probably on a cusp of getting into a serious degree of their relationship, whether it's marriage or whether it's, hey, I want to be boyfriend and girlfriend. People really say that. In hindsight, that is such a stupid concept. Yeah, would you like to be my boyfriend or my girlfriend? But that's another conversation entirely. But just that whole thought process from the beginning thought to realizing it. What was it like, I guess, for the first month internally in your mindset on how you were to move while being married, pondering the process of saying, oh, snap, I have to take the steps necessary? What was like that first month mentally like for you?
It was really hard because I didn't have anybody to talk to. At that point, we were married well over 10 years. And so, we had actually grown to be people's favorite couple. Like we were like the couple everybody's rooting for, like that, younger couples modeled themselves after. So it was really hard to, number one, come to that conclusion that, okay, the change I'm looking for is not going to come. And if I don't do what I need to do, I'm going to end up being a shell of myself. So it was difficult that first month because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. Like I really couldn't tell people like that because it wasn't time to talk about it yet. So a lot of that process, including the month, but like far after that first month, I dealt with by myself. And it was a really lonely process to be in. Because I didn't feel like I could talk to him about it as much, because I mean, I already told him that, like, I think we'd separate, like, we're not talking a whole lot at that point. But it was really just not having anybody to kind of flesh things out with. We did have some spiritual leaders at our church that we talked to, and I continue to talk to them about it. But, you know, you want to like talk to your family, you want to get, you know, people's perspective on things, but sometimes you're not at that point to let anybody else into that part of your marriage. So it's really kind of isolating,
And
honestly.
we can't trust folks either. Let's just keep it up. Let's keep it a
Correct.
big band right now.
Correct.
We can't trust folks at all.
Yeah.
Hey, sis, you can always talk to me. What are your ulterior motives?
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, maybe it's because I'm from New York City. We don't even trust anybody. Like, you know
no, that's true. And I mean, trust, and then like the judgment part of it. Like, I didn't want anybody to be like, "Oh my God, what did you do?" Or even, "What did he do?" Like, maybe it's not about what anybody did. Maybe it's just about where we are and just not really being able to move forward together. I didn't want it to be like you and I talked about before this session started. Like, it wasn't going to be about who's a bad guy. It wasn't about a bad guy. But I didn't want to be judged, because most people, when it comes to divorce, people got to pick a side. You got to decide who's right, who's wrong. And I didn't feel like in this case I was wrong. At one point early on, I did feel like a lot of things were his fault. And I guess we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But I came to, you know, really work on myself and see the faults that I had, the things that I could have done differently. And it wasn't really about him anymore. But it was really a lot of, you know, can I trust these people to know what's going on? And then, am I going to be judged? Are people going to be like, oh, like, how could this happen to them? They've been married for so long. They look like they're so happy and all. Like, I didn't want all of the extra stuff that came with it.
There's a lot of, you're talking about a lot of pressure externally and internally, and things
Absolutely.
of that nature. And like,
Absolutely. It's a lot of pressure.
as you were saying it, and I know what it's like to be like the example in your community of coupledom, and then people like, yo, when you go home, you don't know what it's like in the house. You know what I'm saying? And then what people don't realize, this is a grown conversation for everybody watching. If a person is making a transition out of something, that doesn't mean another person is a bad person, and that there has to be an evil villain. This is not the movies.
Right.
There could be two great people who are not evolving in the same locations. I repeat, it could be two great people that can be evolving in different locations. There does not have to be a villain. There's accountability on both sides. There's faults on both sides, but there's a what I call, there's a realization of stagnancy on either side, and some people not giving it happens. Everybody has a scenario, but this is but listen to what she said. Let me bring it back. I didn't want people to attack him, not only because it was none of their business, because everybody's going to pick a side. And that's why it's important on who we call our friends, who we call our confidants. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine this week, and I was like, yo, if I can't tell you my shit, then what is the extent of our friendship for real? If I can't trust you with information where you're just not gonna utilize it and bash a partner, or utilize it and bash a scenario, or utilize it like those people I call grenade friendships, you'll vent, they'll take the information, they wait till they piss, and they throw it back at you and on the internet. You're like, I can't.
Right. Subliminal posts and all that. I don't have time.
No, I can't do that.
I don't have time.
My degree of anger does not equip me to deal with somebody throwing my business on the net, because that's why I thank God that Facebook has the video messenger feature and Instagram has the video messenger feature. I'm going to hit you up on video.
Right.
And we're going to have a conversation, or I'm going to pull up, or you're going to block me. Either way, it's going to go there. How did you prepare yourself mentally and emotionally for the initial conversation about divorce? Because I know this information to help people, because I've noticed in my research that there are a lot of people who can't even get to the point of even saying that they want.
Yeah. That is so. The whole thing is a process, and each step is its own process. So first, the initial kind of like, something ain't right, and I don't know if we gonna be able to make it, because it don't seem like we can recover from this, and then kind of transform into something ain't right, and I don't see this, making it anymore. I guess I lost my train of thought. One more time. What you asked me?
No, I said, what was basically what was the point where you mentally basically, how did you prepare yourself mentally and emotionally, even for the conversation
The
about
conversation.
divorce
Okay.
to your partner?
Yes. So it was, like I said, the lack of change and growth that was happening, and just initially talking about that. Like, let's talk about what I am personally seeing right now. Like, I feel like XYZ is happening or not happening. And then giving that person an opportunity to correct it, deal with it, make adjustments, whatever. And then coming back to the table, like, yeah, I still really don't feel like, we're meeting each other where we need to be meeting each other. And at that point, I hate to say it like this, but it was almost like an ultimatum. Like, okay, I've tried everything I can try. I don't know that you're trying as hard as I am, but here's what I need. Like, in order for me to want to stay, in order for me to be able to continue down this road, this process, I need these things to happen. If you can't make these things happen, that's okay, but we can't be together. And that's really kind of what it came to. And for us, the separation was kind of a long separation. From the separation to the divorce, like, the separation in October will be 3 years. So it was quite a time that we were like not, seeing eye to eye. So it was opportunities for changes to be made. Anyway, basically just kind of saying, hey, we've talked about these things. I haven't seen any improvements here. Here's what I've done to rectify this, because it can't all just be on one person. So here's the steps that I've taken. Here's what you haven't responded to when I've done this, when I've done that. At this point, I need this exclusively. Like, this is exactly, or explicitly, excuse me, this is exactly what I need to continue. Having to be super direct, like, it took courage and it took reflection and it took like just real thought about where we were, and really me discovering like what do I want? Like, what am I really asking this person to give me? Because I have to be clear. Like, you, at that point that we were at, you have to be explicitly clear on what you need to continue. And that's what the conversation was.
And see, hold on. That's one of the biggest gems in the beginning of this conversation. Listen to what she said. Being accountable, again, I'm paraphrasing, being accountable for her needs, hearing his needs, asking, hey, this is what I need. And everybody has a need. And once those needs are communicated effectively, we always say blunt, but it's true. We always say it's something blunt, but it's not blunt. It's how we feel. We say that it's blunt because a lot of relationships, we just, for lack of a better phrasing, pussyfoot around setting our boundaries and sharing our needs.
Yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
problem for all of us. I don't know whether that
Absolutely.
was programming in our youth, programming how we were trained in school, but that's a universal thing, no matter if you're black, white, gay, straight, Muslim, Christian.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we consider, and again, I catch myself. I don't mean to be blunt. You preface it. I don't mean to be blunt. But why is saying how we feel and setting our boundaries mentally in our mind considered blunt? I do that too. I was like, why am I making a preface for that? This is how I feel.
Yeah.
Why am I asking for forgiveness to say how I feel?
I think it really comes from you really wanting to be respectful to that person, because you don't want their feelings to be hurt. You don't want them to take things the wrong way. However, that doesn't change the fact that what I'm about to state needs to be stated. You know what I mean? And I've always told him in that same regard, like, hey, if you feel like there's something you need to tell me, we have a responsibility to each other to be honest at the very crux of everything, because if we can't be honest with each other, like, what do we have? Like, you don't necessarily have to, like, I would stew over how to approach things, because I wanted to make sure I was coming at him the right way. Like, because, women, black women, like, angry black woman, like, she all rah-rah. I don't come at him like that. That's not how I used to come to him. I really had to think and process and prepare and plan and like role play in my own head. Like, okay, I'll start with this. He's probably going to say this. I'll say this. He's going to say that. Like, it would take me weeks sometimes to introduce a conversation, because I was so concerned with showing him respect and making sure that, he could hear me in those moments, because you want to be heard, but you don't want to come off like a jerk. So I think it's about respect. I really do think it comes from a good place, but you have to know that what needs to be said needs to be said. So find a way to say it. For me, sometimes it was easier for me to communicate with him about hard things through text. Like, I couldn't always look him eye to eye, right? Like, I couldn't always do it when we're sitting in the same place, because it's like, I'm nervous. Like, I don't want to argue. I don't want to have a fight about this. I don't want you to interrupt me, right? Like, I want you to actually let me get my thoughts out. You process what you need to process, and then we can have a conversation about it. So for me, sending a text message with all of my thoughts was probably the best way for me to get those things out to him. So it worked for us in most cases, but you have to find a way to talk to your partner about what needs to happen.
Two things I want to say. I'm not the only one, ladies and gentlemen. You know why I like text? Because text, we can control the tone,
Yeah.
and then we can control what we specifically say, and it's kind of like the word wand. I don't know if anybody's been in mediation training. When you have the wand, you can speak, and it's harder when you're in person and you love each other so much, and you're in a relationship with somebody so much, and you're like, why could you think that? And you say something that's cut off. You say something that's cut off. Text is effective.
Yeah.
Because we manage the tone. Second thing I'll say, she shared something. This for anybody here who's been in a relationship, whether relationship or marriage, for over 10 years. You can love a person so much and know a person so much. We go through and let's not even know if it's a word, anticipatory, but just we have an anticipation strategy of communicative approach.
Yep.
Because we know them so well.
Yep. You know exactly how the whole conversation.
We know how it is. And like I always say, a black woman knows a black man in and out. Well, technically, any woman who's been with a man for over a decade, y'all know what's in and out.
Absolutely.
Y'all know what's in and out. We can't game y'all. We can't game y'all. Even if we go, I'm about to go hang out with the boys. I know what he about to do. They're about to go here first, about to go there first, go there first. Then he's going to complain his back hurt. And I warned them, y'all know us.
Yep.
That crosses all racial boundaries.
Absolutely.
So here's his. You just had the conversation, and this is going to be helpful for a lot of people. Great. The decision has been made. Communication has been set. And I know this information is going to help a lot of people. What were the first steps you took when you knew, hey, this is it? I stated how I felt. I said the boundaries. I said how I feel. I need to make the first steps. What was the first steps that you made externally when you knew that this process had to happen?
So I continued to speak to my spiritual advisors to kind of, make sure they knew, hey, I'm moving forward with this whole decision. For sure, prayer, and literally looking up my state's legal, like, what's the process?
You took my second question. Go ahead.
Literally looking up the process online, like, okay, what needs to happen? Like, what's the fee? Because we have kids, like, how is this going to affect it? Do I have to do a certain process because we have kids? Like, just informing myself with the process, because that's the biggest part of the battle, is that part of it. So I just had to familiarize myself with that so I could plan, because there was a fee, and it wasn't an exorbitant, fee, but I needed to plan it out, and I wasn't going to ask him to pay for it because I was the one who was going to pursue it. So I had to make sure that my funds were in order to, do what I needed to do. So really just speaking to the people who I trusted about it, praying about it, and then researching what I needed to do.
So did you create a financial plan before filing or after filing?
Before.
Now,
because it was just for the purpose of, you mean like my long-term financial plan?
Yeah, like literally, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people that say, I want a divorce, but they don't understand what that fiscal life looks like.
Ooh.
And this is why this is an important conversation. This is why this is an important conversation to be had. So for just act like you're talking to a bunch of people, male and female, like what would be your advice for effective and I'm not saying you had the most perfect right, because nobody's perfect, an effective financial planning strategy prior to filing that would save them a lot of headache that probably you endured?
Well, if I'm being honest, I did not have a financial strategy. I didn't. I'm an educator, and I work in one of the states with the lowest pay for educators. So I do not make a lot of money. So I knew that I would struggle some, but it's been very difficult. My advice would be to really, and here's the other part of it, because people are always like, well, why don't you cut some things? There's nothing to cut. I don't have cable. I don't have a car note. Like, I don't have a bunch of frivolous things that I'm doing with my money. Literally, I pay rent. I pay my car insurance, my light bill, like utilities, Wi-Fi, phone. That's all. Like, my streaming stuff it comes free on my phone. Like, I don't have any extras. So there's nothing to cut. So if I would have been more thoughtful and planned better, because I planned for everything really but my finances. I planned for everything else except that. I would probably have tried to save whatever I could. And again, saving is difficult when you're in my position where you're not in a career where you make a lot of money, but whatever I could have saved something. And I wish that I had saved something, because there have been, I have a middle son who plays baseball. It's a very expensive sport. His equipment, his gloves could cost $250. A bat is $400. Like, he plays on two teams, a school team and a team in the summer. My oldest son is in college. He's away 12 hours at an HBCUs. Like, he still needs to be taken care of. And then our daughter, of course, is still in the house as well. So I wish I would have saved something, because I could have saved something. I just wasn't really thinking about that in that time.
Because a lot of people don't. A lot of us, and I'll say us, a lot of us jump to no, a lot of us try to have, like, not to be super transparent. My mother, when I was a child, had to leave an abusive relationship. And I can remember vividly her taking me out of a house in the middle of the night for fear of her life. No financial plan. So I grew up on welfare, and I still love the welfare cheese in New York. I'm sorry. The taste is still reminiscent. I will have a grilled cheese with that any day of the week. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and the powdered milk was lit. We can make milkshakes. It's not the conversation we're having right now. But we were on welfare for a minute, and she did the best she could with what she had, but she had to get out of an abusive situation. I'm not saying it's a situation. I'm just using this for an example. There are people out there, and anybody that's watching or anybody that will watch the replay, like she said, save as much as you can. The internet is a great resource. Use AI to come up with, with answers on financial planning and things of that nature. There's a lot of support groups out there, of strangers. I like talking to strangers because strangers don't snitch. They don't snitch. It's like a therapist. I could talk all my jump to a therapist. Y'all not going to snitch against HIPAA violations. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. But like she said, she made a decision. She had to go. And thank you, Harrison Family Values. He says, dope topic. Thank you, brother. It says, dope topic. Thank you, brother. And everybody check out and follow him on, subscribe to his YouTube channel, because Harrison Family Values got some bomb topics for sure. But that's a thing that people should think about, is financial planning. Yeah. Because anything can happen. Somebody can have a psychiatric break. Whole marriage dynamic change.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Adultery can occur. Whole dynamic can change.
Yeah.
And when it comes to children, I want to get to my second topic, because this is hugely important. I mentioned it earlier. What was it like when you made the decision and realized, hold on, I'm not going to say you waited to think about the kids, but I'm saying, like, what was it like getting a divorce with multiple children, and then that process to forge ahead, knowing all the responsibility that you'd have to take care of?
Yeah, that's probably, if for people who have kids, that is probably the close second, biggest thing that you think about. So for me, it was protecting the kids. So let me go back. When I was a kid thinking about marriage, I always said I would never get divorced if I had kids, because, like, you got to stay and work it out for the kids, and both parents got to be there. Because I grew up in a household where my parents are still married. I'm 41. So I grew up in that, situation where, like, that was the answer. Like, that was just what you had to do. And there was no abuse. Let me make that clear. There was not an abusive relationship. However, now as an adult who's married, I can see, and, someone who works in education and kind of a helper profession, I can see how detrimental it can actually be when parents stay together when they shouldn't be together, when they're staying for the kids, because sometimes the kids are not idiots. My kids are older, 13, 16, 21. Like, they're not dumb. Like, they're around the same as we are, and they see little nuances, and they see little, you know what I mean? They feel things too. They can sense that stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this to save it, for the kids. Like, I think I can be better to my kids single than if I stay in this marriage and I feel like I'm losing myself. I'm losing, my values. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I need to do this so I can be better 100% from my kids. So we did not talk to him for a while about it, because I think it's the same thing with telling people about your divorce, like, whether it's family or whatever, like, involving external people. It's not the right time. It wasn't the right time right away. But when I felt like it was the right time. He didn't really think it was the right time ever, but I pressed and pressed and pressed because things were getting more awkward. Like, it was really awkward. Like, so we need to actually have a conversation, let the kids know what's happening so that they can start whatever process they need to start. I'm a firm believer in therapy. So I was like, if our kids need to go to therapy because of this, so be it. Like, I'm all for it because I need them to be whole. So it was really just about like keeping it from them as long as we could so we could figure out what, number one, if we were actually going to get divorced. And then number two, like, what was it going to look like? Was he going to still stay in the house for a little while? Was he going to get his own place? Like, were we both going to move out of this house? So we had to figure out a lot of stuff first. And then it was like, okay, we can't really deny it anymore. We need to talk to the kids about it. The kids found out this in the summer, this past summer, and the divorce just was finalized in March. So they found out pretty late after everything. And the conversation, I was really proud of the way the conversation that he kind of led the conversation. I was really proud of like the way he talked about things and the things that he said and the analogies that he used to make sure they understood. And once he said those things, you know, I had to remind them like, now listen, this is new to y'all. Like, we've been living this for over 2 years. So this is brand spanking new to you, but it's not new to us. So, and I had to think about that too, because the kids they're just hearing about their parents who've been together their whole life. Like, that's, you know what I'm saying? Earth shattering. I wasn't really sad anymore at that point. I had been processed those emotions. I had been over the marriage. I had grieved the marriage. I was ready for next, phases at that point. So I had to check myself with the way I interacted with them and like kind of having sensitivity for where they are. And I still struggle with that because they still, our hands kind of like, they don't really want to talk about it a lot. And I give them that space, but I have to remind myself this is still very new to them. So I have to treat them as such and not that, they've known about it the whole time and we all, are kind of on the same page, because we're not. So that's important too.
Well, you know what? Big shout out to effective teamwork co-parenting. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I heard in this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah,
there's a lot of
absolutely.
couples who make a departure plan. That's what a divorce is, and things of that nature, separation plan. They're not on the same page when it comes to the kids, and that's unfortunate. So big shout out to the both of y'all. Because we
Yes.
both got friends. We both got family members who literally go full scorch earth selfishness
Yes.
in that scenario. So
Well, and one of the conversations, I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I talk too much. You know me. Go ahead.
Well, one of the conversations that I had with him was that, we have too many milestones to celebrate for our kids. Our son he'll be graduating college, hopefully by the grace of God next year. We have a son he'll be graduating high school soon. Again, he plays baseball. Our daughter, she's coming up behind our youngest son. We have too many things to celebrate with our kids for it to be awkward or for them to feel like they have to pick sides.
Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with them. We don't love them any less. I don't want them to feel like they gotta, like, oh, well, I can't do this because mommy might feel like, nope, we're going to be in the same room. We're going to be able to sit down and enjoy the company of our children without it being awkward for them, without them feeling like they have to kind of watch what they say and walk on eggshells. No, we've been their parents their whole life, and we're going to continue to be their parents their whole life. So at all costs, this cannot be tampered with. Like, our kids need to always feel that they are loved by both of us, that we make decisions in the best interest of them and their hearts. But I told him, like, we're not going to do that. I've seen too many messy divorces where the kids are fighting with the parents, and we're not doing that. Our kids are going to be able to celebrate their occasions and their milestones with us right there. And even if we have partners at that point, different partners at that point, like, we need to all be able to be adults about this and give our kids a chance to still grow up happy, healthy, and whole.
Yeah, you actually answered one of my next questions. How do you maintain a sense of normalcy with the children amongst all
Yeah.
these changes? How do you deal with because everything is growing pains, right?
Yeah,
Anytime
for
we go through
sure.
transitions, growing pains. How do you not how do you manage growing pains with the kids' social emotional behavior based on this? Because my
Mhm.
ignorant self, I'd be like, hey, you get 2 Christmases or 2 different spots. You get 2 this, you get 2 birthdays. But see, I'm ignorant. I'm like, I'm gonna reach for the gift stars. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. But how do you Like, were there any books that you read? I know you said you spoke to your spiritual advisor, and it seems like you have a great team of support system through this process. So were there any
Yeah.
books? Like, were there any advice? I know people are seeing this and like, dag, I wish I had that type of partner. Wow, I wish my kids were that understanding. They might not have that scenario. Is there anything that you can suggest to maintain that level of normalcy and things of that nature if they're not in this the great scenario that you guys both are, which basically adult co-parenting is the
Yeah.
best way to put it.
No, I didn't read anything. Probably could have, but I didn't. So I don't have any suggestions for that. Really just helping them understand, like, guys, we're two individuals. Like, parents are people too. And, we still want to be able to enjoy you guys and what you're doing. So let's not make this weird. Like, your dad was coming to the games before, he's coming to the games now. Like,
I like that. Let's
you know
not
what I'm
make
saying?
this
We ain't
weird.
gotta make
Stop
it
getting
weird. Like,
yeah.
it don't gotta be weird. Like, this is the same dad today that he was 2 weeks ago before we told you this news. He's not changed for you. Like, that's not who he is. So I've not changed. Like, our role as your parents does not change in this situation. So just, yeah, I mean, just, and thankfully he does live very close to where we live, so he's able to pick up after school, or if I can't do something, I'm with one kid, he has to go do something for another. Like, it's super helpful. Like you said, that co-parenting aspect, I'm really grateful for that, because it could be very different. I don't have to fight with him about stuff like that. That's not even an issue. Like, hey, I got to be two places at one time. Which one can you get? Which one can you do? And he's like, okay, I get off at this time. I'll try to get there. I'll be late, but I'll be there. Like, like, we're gonna show up for our kids, because we've always shown up for our kids. So
Yeah, but
that is just not gonna change.
not to give too much to the audience, I know both of them. Like, before they was even together, they would seem like level-headed people anyway. So like, you have like level-headed DNA. It's not a me scenario where I'm an ignoramus. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, are you serious? What you talking about? You're not gonna be here at 4, yo. You wildin'. This is what I'm talking about. See,
Now, there's maturity that has to take place too, because there have been times, and I'll speak for myself, where I'm like, is he serious? Like, for real? This, whatever. Like, and I gotta catch myself, like, this man he's rebuilding his life too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had an opportunity to rebuild my life probably earlier, because I was the one who initiated everything. So I was already in separation, divorce mode way before, or like when I initially mentioned it to him, I started right away. I don't think he was with me at that point. He was still very much like, we ain't getting no divorce. We, like, I go stay at the hotel, but we gonna be together in 2 months. Like, so I had already started processing that stuff, and he really hadn't. So I have to really think about it like, he is piecing his life together just like I had to piece my life together too. I can't be too, like, rigid when it comes to stuff like that. Like, I gotta let them, okay, you're gonna be late. Like, we gonna figure this thing out. But again, that comes with maturity and growth. Now, 6 months into the separation, I wasn't there. There's no
because
way.
y'all both hurt and departing. Like,
Absolutely.
again, you're human at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. This isn't like, I know a lot of people watching it was like, wow, that's the ideal scenario. I know these two people in real life. I seen her get buck wild and bark on me 20 years ago. Tag, it's been 20 years though. It's true.
Right.
I feel old as hell, but it's true. Like, I knew them when they were literally children.
Yeah.
We were all children.
Legit.
We are grown now. But
Yeah.
like, I'm glad that you're keeping it 100 like this. And I didn't want to go here, and I'm not going to skip because we're going on to the next point.
Mhm.
Let me ask you a question. How do you feel when you see the rhetoric on the internet where it says black women are the ones who initiate divorce the most, and you see all this gender war nonsense, being a person who's living an actual transition to a different lifestyle? Like, let me make it clear to everybody.
Well, no,
Being
yes.
divorced. But see, you got to watch your words in that. What do you mean transition to a different lifestyle? You know what I mean? But how do you feel when you see the rhetoric online and the gender wars and the ridicule towards black women who initiate divorce? What is that? How does that resonate with you? And I know you can give me the easy answer. Well, I don't pay no attention to it. But real talk. In the back of your mind, first thought that hits you when you see it online, because I know you see it. What do you think?
I mean, okay, I can see both sides, because I think, and I'm sure you and your viewers have seen, some of what I'm gonna say. Black women are used to being strong and used to carrying a big weight and a lot of the load, and we're very vocal and blah blah blah. Yes. Now, why is that? For multiple reasons. Why, I'm not going to go into all that. I'll speak for myself. Um, I think that I can see both sides of it, but ultimately, that doesn't really matter because we're making generalizations about things that are very personal, about people who are very different people, different walks of life, different beliefs, different faiths, different life experiences. And it's really hard to make a blanket statement like that for it to be true. So that's why I can say I can see both sides of it. For me personally, I had to look at myself because I told myself, like, I don't ever want to get married again after this. Like, I don't see myself wanting to have that emotional responsibility to somebody else that you have to have in a marriage. And then I started thinking, like, well, maybe I might give it another shot, but I have to work on some of my stuff. And as a Black woman who kind of fit into that, mold that you're talking about, I had to start looking at how aggressive I was, how vocal I was, how strong I was. And I had a conversation with my cousin about this last Thanksgiving, just about our lineage and how, we've always had to do that. And I don't want to be that person anymore. Like, I'm trying to get in my soft life. Like, I don't want to do nothing no more. Like, I've been super mom, super woman, super wife. I don't want to do that no more. Like, I have to look at myself and say, okay, in my marriage, there were things I could have done differently and said differently. Like, I didn't have to put this much stress and um um emphasis on these things. Like, I could have been a little less rigid about things. Like, I think Black women and Black men in general, that we got to be honest about who we are. Like, we have to be honest about who we are as individuals and who we are as a culture. And I have had to and continue to have to be honest about who I am. I don't have to always fix it. I remember several situations in my marriage where, like,
Let's keep it ambiguous, people.
listen,
Let's keep it ambiguous, people.
if
Let's
somebody
keep
brought the names, we ain't doing that now.
Nah, let's keep it ambiguous.
So I remember having conversations about, like, this is what I would like to see happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he would, like, make an attempt to do it or whatever. And if I didn't like the way he did it or how much time it took, I just try to do it myself. I can't do that. Like, if I want to be with somebody and really be submissive to that person, like, I have to stop always trying to take the lead and fix stuff. Like, I have to give a man a chance to actually do what he says he's going to do. I wasn't in that mind frame for most of my marriage, honestly. And I always thought I was right about stuff. I can admit that now. Like, I wasn't right about everything that I thought I was right about. I was passionate. I had good reasons for feeling the way I felt about things, but I wasn't always right. Not to say that he was always right either, but we're different people.
Mm-hmm.
And our opinions and perceptions are different. So, like, I could actually be right and he could be right at the same time about the same thing. Like, so I think when it comes to, data and stats about Black women being the people who pursue divorce more, that might be true. But I think everybody has to really shine a mirror on themselves to see, who are you? What could you do differently? How could you be better? What are some things some qualities that you have that may be a little bit too much? Like, you got to make some adjustments. And that's not even just in relationships. That's professionally. That's as a parent. Like, we got to start assessing ourselves and really being honest about who we are and what we really want and how we're going to get there.
But do you hear the growth process even as you're saying these things right now? I could tell that, both of you are in your growing seasons.
Yeah.
You're not who you were 3 years ago. Both of you are not mentally and emotionally who you were 3 years ago.
Right.
Especially the way that you co-parent shows me the
Right.
difference. A lot of people don't have that maturity. And the fact that you've gone through a self-realization moment where you're keeping yourself accountable, he's probably going through, again, two mature people will go through individual internal self-realization moments where they're both accountable.
Yep.
And that's the only thing I have with online. They'll attribute unaccountability to a gender. If a man says that, you're a simp. And I'm like, listen, number one, y'all dudes online would never say that to a woman to her face in real life. Let's talk about it. Half of the stuff y'all say on the internet, y'all would never say to somebody in their face. That's a fact.
True
Especially
story.
to her. That's off top. Off top, you're not gonna say it. But that's really important. But since you're trying to keep it transparent and honest, let's talk about something. Because you're a professional today. Let's talk about this topic right quick, and I'll catch you on the other end.
What was the most shocking thing about going back into single?
Trying to date. That has been the hardest freaking thing after divorce, because back when I was dating, MySpace was popular. And nowadays, you can't really find a woman who just wants one guy, or the ones who do want one guy. A lot of them have been broken and been beat up by guys. And by the time it comes around, they're just tired. They don't want to date anybody. So the ones who are worth dating are hanging out just like I am. They're single as a bird. And they ain't trying to look for nobody. So the pool of people that we have to choose from nowadays ain't exactly the greatest, because all the people went and fucked everything up for everybody. So now good guys, good girls, we're all hanging out single without each other.
He said single as a dove, no. He said single as a dove. So again, we keep it professional, ambiguous, because you are a professional with the job outside of the internet. Keep it classy, not nasty. But real talk, there's a lot of people who think they have that grass is greener mentality. Oh, I can't wait to get a divorce because I'm going to be in these streets. That's guys and girls. They think the same. I'm going to be doing all this. And then if you're over 40, men, your stamina ain't what it was at 20. Let's talk about that. You have to be using that honey packet and take yourself to the hospital for high blood pressure, thinking you could be stroking in these streets something stupid. You can't do it like you did at 25. You can't. You know what I'm saying? But outside of the physical aspects, the dating pool has been notoriously said that it's full of piss, right? You know what I'm saying? Notoriously stated as such.
I think that's the funniest thing. The dating pool has piss in it.
Yeah, but this is a non-getting to your business situation. Like, what is your scope on the reality overall of dating as a concept post-divorce? Look at that deep breath. Look at that deep breath. Look at that deep breath. She took a step back. Like, yo.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I do think there's hope. But I think it's complicated because it comes with a lot of stuff. Like, obviously I have 3 kids. One of which is an adult, 2 are teens. So like, it's gonna be complicated. Like, when do you introduce your kids to somebody? If your partner, does your partner have kids? Like, are you looking at potentially having to have more kids? Like, it's complicated. So I think that it's about taking your time. And it is kind of strange because I haven't dated anybody. Like I said, I was married for 17 years. I ain't dated nobody since I was 22. We started dating when I was 22. So I don't even know like how to do it. Like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I be feeling so awkward. Like, oh, you looking at me, you talk, oh, hi. Like, I'm a nerd. Like, I don't know how to do it. Like, but I do think that because I'm ready to date at this point, but I think that I don't know. Like, I just think it's going to be kind of complicated, and people have to be open and understanding that, people may not be open and understanding to you. Like, somebody might not want to talk to me because I got 3 kids and I don't want to have no more kids. Like, conversations have to be a little bit different even initially. Like, I don't really have time to like shoot the breeze, and like, I'm 41 and I want to take my time. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to just rush into something, but I'm saying, like, I need to know pretty quickly where you are. Like, do you want to have more kids? Because I don't, and I can't. Like, I can't have kids. So if that's really important to you, we don't even need to talk no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you looking to move to my area, or are you in my area? Are you looking to relocate anytime soon? Because I ain't going nowhere. Like, I like where I live. My kids are in school. My kids are like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and even my own self-discovery too, about what I want. Like, I don't want to move. I don't want to, there are things that I don't want to do and I'm just not going to do. So understanding that too, like going into this dating situation, like I have a different set of standards today at 41 as a divorced woman with 3 kids than I did when I was single, before all of this stuff. So I mean, you just have to, it's muddy waters to navigate. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that part out. I'm freshly divorced, so I haven't figured it all out yet. But I think it's really just about like asserting yourself early on. Like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm not. If that ain't really what you want, then
yeah. But I think your approach is great. I think especially you ain't got time for a lot of nonsense. I think
I
that's
really don't.
With men and women, and I think that men and women should implement the let me put my cards on the table, fam. Strategy.
That's what it is.
Let me put my cards on the table. You look good. I look good. I'm kind of interested. I'm feeling you. Let's just keep it real. Let's do a lightning round of keep it real questions. I ain't trying to move. I got 3 kids. What's your status on this? What's your financial portfolio? There was a scene in this TV show. I forgot what it was called in the 90s. And this guy, and I'll find it later in the video. I'll ask you a question. I'm going to look for it. And it was a sitcom where there were 2 business heads. They worked in the same office. And he says, hey, I want to get married. What do you think about this? And it was a joke. It was a skit. They approached it like a business dynamic. How many kids? 2. I want 3. Well, why don't we do 2 if you're willing to vacation in the Caymans on the weekends? How do you do this? What about finances? What are your favorite colors? Do you like dinner parties? Cool. He's like, I want a house. Well, great. I want a house here. No, I don't want a house there. Well, we tried. Next, they shook hands and they kept it moving. But sometimes it has to be like that. When you have kids and when you're of a particular age, like we are 40s gang. You feel what I'm saying? Not ashamed. We don't have time.
No.
To play, it's like watching a TV show where it take the couple that they like 3 seasons to kiss. Now we ain't got time for 3 seasons, fam. We got kids, we got responsibilities, we got bills, we got financial portfolios.
Yeah,
I think everybody should implement the put your cards on the table, fam strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Post it like, listen, I'm this. What about you? Well, I'm this. You know what? We cool as friends. Next, I'm this. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, again, at this age, it's just like there are just things I'm not gonna tolerate. It is what it is. And I'm sure there are things that guys are not gonna tolerate too, and that's fine. But I'm not gonna subject my kids to nobody crazy. Like, I just have to be very thoughtful about what I do and how I move. And I have a daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I need to make sure that whoever I'm bringing into this mix, I need to be able to make sure my daughter can be in the same room with this person. I need to make sure that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be really careful about who you're bringing into your circle and the vibes they give off and the energy they give off. Like, I just have to be very careful. And for me, I'm speaking for myself, I feel like out of respect for my ex, I need to be able to bring somebody to him. Like, hey, this is who I'm, if it gets to that point, like, this is who I'm dealing with. Like, we want to do this. We want to do that. I want to make sure he meets the kids. Like, how do you feel about this? Do you want to meet him? Like, it's a whole different process when you're over 40 and you have kids and you have a career and you have so I don't have time for foolery. I don't. So
and let me add to that. Everybody who's watching in their 40s or late 30s, something like that, and they got divorced or they got out of a long relationship, can you please normalize health panels? Like, folks, I don't understand why health panels aren't normalized. If I'm dating you and I'm interested and we have a good time going out and we thinking we're going to take a trip to Smashville, we want to have one partner and we want to visit Smashville on a regular basis, why don't we have a date to the clinic and have a health panel party? I don't understand why health panels are not normalized in society.
Absolutely. I have a friend who actually mentioned that to me, that before they had a partner, they're like, all right, let's go to the clinic. Like, let's go see what's up.
That's part of the date, Nick. That's part of the date. You feel me? That's part
you know
of
what I'm
the
saying?
date.
Like, yeah, like before we do anything, before we go get this steak dinner, let's just roll over here real quick, get that insurance, swipe that card, and let's see what's what. I think that's, yeah, I mean, you have to be, we're different now. Like, we got 401ks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't just be out here acting all willy-nilly. Like, I gotta be strategic about this thing. So yeah, like the conversations are different, the tactics are different, the scenes are different. You know, it just, yeah, I don't have time for a lot of foolery. And I need to know right up front if you part of the foolery, because I need to keep on my way.
And you gotta keep your body protected, because you and I both. Well, I've worked in education and social services 16 years. You've worked in education for the same amount of time.
Yeah,
we've both seen the after effects of what happened to kids due to, like, lack of better phrasing, knucklehead parenting and knucklehead decisions. We've seen the results of knucklehead decisions in children that we work with. Even our coworkers that we work with. Somebody posted, James Ryan, how to thrive after a divorce, first fix why you got divorced. Okay, we got our first hate of the day. Thank you, James. If it's not added to the conversation, James, then I don't know why you made the comment. And listen, I don't know if you're familiar with my channel. I ether trolls for fun, for breakfast. Don't be made into a TikTok that I will put ad dollars behind and ether you for like a week on TikTok. Don't do it. Not to me.
Are we assuming that we didn't try to fix it? Like, is that the assumption? Because, like, come on, after 17 years, you don't think that was the first thing? Like,
Courtney, don't feed the trolls.
All right. Let's go.
Let's go. They'll never fall. And here's the thing. They never say it to our face in person. I know they would never say it to you in your face in person at all. At all.
Please do. Please do.
Please do. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let's get to this. Real talk. We have to protect ourselves, especially if you're single after something long term, because people are dirty dicking and dirty tricking. You heard what I'm saying? Like, they just, and working in social services the way I've done, you know, I know what the bad side of health panel results look like. And I'm stressing this for a reason. Yeah. This isn't the day and age of like, hey, put on some latex, you'll be fine. Bro, things are flying through latex of all genders, all right? Things are flying through latex, all right? Have one great night. You wake up to a morning fright. Hello.
Listen. Nobody wants that.
That to me is scarier than jail time. I'm sorry.
No, for real.
That forever luggage, scarier than jail time. I'm just going to keep it buck. Like, that forever immune destroyer, scarier than jail time. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you gotta really be careful with externally sexy, internally dirty equipment. You feel what I'm saying? That's an all gender conversation. You know what I'm saying? That is frightening. There are some very attractively packaged people that have viciousness in their bloodstream. You know what I'm saying? That they try to share to the world.
Facts.
Viciousness. Very well put together. That's like, there's so many Porsches out there where the seats are full of bed bugs, if you can feel what I'm saying.
Listen.
You know what I'm saying? How's that for ambiguity? How's that for ambiguity? How's that for
True story, man. You got to be careful out here. Like, it's real. And especially if you're just entering dating and you kind of like trying to, you know, you might want to sow your wild oats for a little bit. Like, but if it's just like casual stuff and you haven't even made a new commitment, and that nobody wants that.
And that's another thing, like, and I'm not trying to get deep here. Anybody that's out of something long term don't want to get a soul tie with an imbecile. Like, people don't want to talk about that. And for the people that aren't familiar,
listen,
have you ever been with somebody or had sex with somebody, and for some reason you just got lazier? For some reason you've had more of a negative thought process. For some reason you don't feel yourself. That's because you've switched and swapped energy. And we're talking about energy. Like, I call it bum bitch energy. And that's genderless. That's a unisex term, the B word. Is it bum bitch? You got to watch the energy that you're swapping.
That's true.
You can, oh, they look great. They make me feel good. But then when we exchange energy, oh my God, I just feel this cloud.
Right. Yeah.
It's called a soul tie, imbecile.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to watch you swapping energy with. Real talk.
You do. And it's not just that person. It's the people that they've been with too.
Word.
So maybe their energy is all right. But 3 people ago, they wasn't right. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is very real. Like,
yeah, when
very real.
When we were kids, the term was you can't trust a big butt and a smile. Now, as an adult, you can't trust like demons and semen.
Yes.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, we got a whole bunch of people walking around. Like, some people might have 10 people with them. Some people might have the Barclays Center of freakism in their spirit. You know what I'm saying? You sleep with them one time, we be like, oh my God.
Like, this ain't something really ain't right.
You got that bipolar box, Ma. What's going on? know what I'm saying? You got that Legion pipe, fam. You need to go to church or something like that. What am I exchanging energy with right now? You feel me? Again,
That's real.
genderless statement for all
That's
the
real.
sensitive ones out there, but it'll be women and men walking around with 15 people base baggage. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wondering why they're still in the same position in life they were 10 years prior. Maybe because you swapping energy with a lame. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But people
Yeah.
don't want to see. We can talk about the STD side of the game and dating after divorce,
But it's bigger than that.
it's huge of that, and that's the thing. As parents,
Yeah.
for the parents post divorce and things of that nature, whoever you swap energy with, I love my ambiguous terms. That energy is going to come back to you, to your house, and it's going to interfere with your relationships with kids.
Yeah. It's all spiritual. Like it's all spiritual. And again, that's why you got to be careful who you bringing into your space with your kids. Like you said, like it's going to infect that environment too. And then they get, they're not doing this whatever, but like it infects the environment, and that in turn affects your kids. Like you just got to be super careful about that whole thing.
Well, are you at the healing point in processes? And again, I'm really trying to keep this ambiguous without getting your business. Are you at the healing part and process where you're open to dating? Yes or no? Or you can dump the
Yes.
question into yes. Okay, great.
Yes.
Have you gone to the mind danger field of dating apps?
No.
That's dangerous.
No.
So you
No.
usually meet people through your social circles or through, God forbid, work circles. I would totally suggest against that. But
No, like just social circles for the most part, but yeah, I just don't trust. Like I don't know, I think you have to see people and like again, energy and vibes. Like you need to see, how they interact and like how they move. Like I don't think I could swipe to get that. Even if you meet them after that, like I just feel like that initial, whatever needs to be organic. And I need to be able to kind of, I don't know. I just feel like I'm cool on that. I'm gonna do that.
I'll be sending niggas surveys. Swipe, answer these 25 questions. If you win it, then win it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but see, I'm a petty New Yorker. I'm like, we don't trust nobody, yo. We don't trust nothing. You want to holler at me, 25 questionnaire. I ain't writing all that. You ain't smart enough. Next. You know what I'm saying? Next. So rounding things off, what are some of the biggest changes that you've made in your life post-divorce that you didn't mention prior?
Well, I in October, I took a new job. So I was a high school counselor. I've been in that profession for about 15 years, give or take a year or two. And so now I actually work for the district. So I'm no longer just in one building. I go to multiple buildings and work with students who have severe behavior needs. So that was something that was a big change. Like in the middle of all that transition, I was also transitioning in my career as well.
That's a smart move. That's a smart move for many
Because
reasons, intellectually, emotionally, and change environment wise. That's
yes,
smart.
yes.
Before I let you finish that, somebody has a question in the comments. Goku says, would you date somebody younger than you? Oh, that is a good question. Knowing you the way that I know you, I don't think you have the attention span for it, but whatever. That's me assuming.
It depends on how much younger. Like I've always been pretty mature for my age, even when I was much younger. Like, like all of that. Like
you always had grandmama energy. Like we feel like
leaps
we
and
was in trouble. We said something crazy. You always had grandma energy. Real talk. And that's
So I don't know.
Don't take offense. You've always had
No.
authoritative,
I've just always
energy.
been mature. Yeah. So like it depends on how much younger. But again, I have a 21-year-old son.
Oh,
so
your son will beat somebody up.
Like, you know what I mean? Like my son come home from college and be like, yo, what are we doing, Ma? Like, no. So it depends.
In layman's terms, your son to stomp somebody out he don't like. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it real. Let's keep it real.
Like he's not about to go for no foolishness. So
word, I get to see it now. I don't even know your son, but the energy that both of y'all have, especially with your ex, he got that silent, observant, but you got that upfront militant. I'm like,
listen,
bro.
And my 21-year-old is ready. Like he stay ready, and I have to tell him like I need you to be a little bit more cautious because he's good, but like he's ready. So.
I understand. I got a 9-year-old daughter from New York, and she pop off on a regular at school.
She's so cute.
Be ashamed. Yeah, you say that now. She watched too much UFC. She's been watching UFC since she was literally a toddler. She pops off. The conversation's not about me. Real quick, because I go in. I talk too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, All right. So what, like 5 years younger? I know it all depends on personality and
I'm
factors like that.
41.
What's the youngest in terms of age range downward you would go? Are you full cougar in it? You know what I'm saying?
Nah, fam. I ain't cougaring.
Can you
Nah.
imagine pulling up with somebody to like homecoming on full cougar energy? I can
Like,
see everybody
like,
now. Bro,
like what?
what is it?
No.
What is it? The pipe of justice? Is that the reasoning?
No. Probably like not too far from my current age, probably like 38 for real. Like, cause you have to be able to be in a career and like have, some type of establishment about yourself. Like, yeah. And maybe you have kids. So like the responsibility of having children, that's kind of important to me. Like, cause that's my life, so I need to be able to be with somebody that understands what it means to be a, custodial parent for sure, but like an involved parent, like that's important. So probably like 38 would be the lowest.
He got some follow up for you. Goku says, let's say he's 35. What about if he's really a good dude and does what he needs to do? He said that again. He says, let's say he's 35 or in his 30s. He does everything he needs to do to take care of you. Then he follows up again because you cutting off a whole section of the day. Dad, Goku, you trying to holler right now?
Man,
Goku, what's going on? Oh, he like what he see right now. I don't know what's going on. Let me find out you digitally pimping right now involuntarily. What's going on?
Shut up.
You know what I'm saying? You got the swag on Ken, dude. They are really hollering. He said, yo, what about this? What about this? He's negotiating and bartering right now. We see a lot of bartering. It's the wreath. The wreath.
Man.
The wreath is shooting pheromones through the screen right now. I don't know what's going on.
No.
Big shout to Goku.
I feel like there's a certain level of maturity that has to be the standard for me now. And I don't know that somebody younger than 38 would have that type of maturity. So you can be a good guy. You can, be like, have your stuff together and all that, but I'm looking for a certain type of maturity. Like, so I don't think it could be anybody. And yeah, I might be cutting off a whole section of the dating pool. And guess what? I'm okay with that. Like, I'm really good with that.
You didn't give it the thumbs though. I'm okay with that.
I'm really okay with that. Like,
gave it the thumbs.
I'm good with that. I mean, I have to be like, again, I had to set new standards for myself, and my standards don't include somebody who's significantly younger than me. They just don't. Like, it doesn't mean that those are not good guys or they're not going to be, good partners or whatever, but like, that's just not what I'm looking for. And at this phase in my life, having been divorced, a lot of what I do has got to meet my standards. Like, I cannot settle for anything. And I'm not saying that I was settling before, but I'm just saying, like, now that I'm at this phase, like, I have to be completely honest with what I want, and that's what I have to pursue. So for me, it's probably gonna be a no. Gojo, what's his name?
Goku. Yeah, he says, okay, that's a good age. See, Goku's understanding. You know what I'm saying? Big up to the Dragon Ball Z clan up in here. You feel me? Rounding everything off, because this conversational goal is because that there's people that could be watching. So the last question I have for you, and you can take as much time as you need answering this, for the people who are currently where you were previously, that didn't have the conversation with their spouse, they're really scared about having a conversation, to the people that are limiting themselves internally, what real talk advice would you give to them that you wish was specifically given to you in those stages? But somebody who might have 3 kids, or somebody who might, listen, I don't understand how people are frowning upon people with 7 kids. I got a lot of friends with like 7, 8 kids and things of that nature, because they built a life.
Yeah.
What advice, if you were staring directly at them, that you can tell them, like real tangible information, and only you can share, that can speak to somebody that it wasn't a situation that you were currently in?
I think number one, you have to get to the core of what the real issues are. That's really important, because sometimes you get the byproducts and you think that's the issue, but that's not necessarily the real issue. You have to be able to dig, and most times that comes with the help of a professional. We cannot be afraid to use therapy, whether it comes from, your faith-based community or, psychology or whatever. Like, I'm a firm believer in God and therapy. because there are people who are trained to give you different perspectives that you haven't necessarily considered and different ideas. So I think, and that helps you get to that core. So identifying what the real issue or issues are. I think also spending some time really trying to be intentional about fixing. Like somebody mentioned that before. Really trying, not just like, well, I did this and they didn't respond. Like, are you really putting in work and effort to meet that person where they are? I remember one of my spiritual advisors, we met, it's a couple, they're a couple, and we met them and they suggested that he tell me like how to approach him without like starting a fight, or it's like to diminish the chances of having an argument or something like that. And he gave like 2 or 3 like tangible things that I could do. So I'm like, cool. I did those things. Like I took that to heart, and you have to understand that it's going to require some discomfort. There are going to be things that you have to do that you may not want to do, that it makes you uncomfortable. It might feel very foreign to you, but marriage is very much like you decided to do this. So you really have to do everything it takes to make it work. You're obligated to do that. So if that means that you're doing something that's uncomfortable for you for the sake of your marriage, I'm not talking about abuse or, things of that nature. I'm talking about things that are really progressive that just make you uncomfortable because you're not used to doing or thinking that way. You got to do those things. And, if they still don't work, I think you have to at some point, if it comes to that, and I don't promote divorce. Like, I'm not like, yeah, everybody just, that's not what this is.
Everybody jump on the grass is greener line.
That's not what I'm about. Like, I really wish it could have worked. I wish that it wasn't broken. Like but it was. But I think just accepting that it's okay. Like, if you can't make it work, if you cannot figure out how to do this in a way that's healthy for both people, where you can both, thrive, you got to wrap your mind around the fact that it's okay if you're not together. And that was a big thing, again, because I said, we have been role models to a lot of people. And that was honestly my very first reason why I didn't pursue any separation, was because I was like, I don't want to disappoint all these younger couples, and I don't want them to feel like, they're not going to make it. And at a certain point, I was like, it's not about them. Like, we have to be whole. We have to be able to come to this house in this space every day and look at each other and survive every day. And if we can't do that, it don't matter how many people look up to us. Like, it ain't gonna work. So, it's all about honesty and reflection. It really is. Like, I don't know how else to put it. You got to put yourself aside. You really have to put yourself aside and really focus on, what can I do for this? How can I serve this other person? How can I be of service to this person? What can I do to meet them where they are? My ex lost both of his parents during our marriage.
Wow.
And that was a huge hit. When you get married, like you say, for better, for worse and all that, but you don't necessarily think about the life events that are going to happen, that are going to rock you. We lost our first child that we conceived together. We lost our first baby. We weren't prepared for that. We weren't prepared for both his parents to pass away. So, and even the transition of moving across, state to state, like sometimes that can be something that really alters how the marriage works, being in a new place and having to find new jobs and things like that. The transitions of life, like I was in school getting my master's and he was the one who was working all the time. And then he wanted to go back to school. So I had to work while he was in school. Like, some of those transitions really can affect whether or not you want to stay together or whether or not you can stay together. But it's about reflection. You got to really think about how you can be selfless. And if you want to be selfless, if you can't be selfless.
Oh, hold on. Don't escape that point. Go ahead. Get a little bit deeper. If you can't be selfless,
that, yeah. then you agreed to that. You know what I mean? Like, you agreed to take yourself out of equations. It's like, really, okay, what I know pissed at this person. I know I don't like this person right now. I know I don't want to talk to him or look at him or her or whatever in this moment, but I promised this is one of the worst moments. I promise for better or worse. So let me just shut my mouth and ask, what do you need from me? How can I help you with that? And mean it. If you can't do that, you're probably not gonna make it anyway. I mean, I hate to, like, that's a requirement.
But see, that's that internal work. That's that internal work we talked about, that individualized internal work. And that's the maturity thought process. Instead of people playing point your finger blame, like the internet says, no, it's this person's fault. The internet says, no, it's the woman's fault. No, the internet says, no, it's the man's fault. No. This is internal work talk. And I'm going to bring that because it was a great gem you laid out earlier. What is the internal work that we're doing? You said that earlier, which is a great point, and I'm going to bring it back up. I don't want to cut you off. I do want to ask, I've been feeling to ask this. What advice would you give to people on this divorce journey in terms of what type of people they should stay away from, personality-wise, families and friends included, who they should not allow into this circumference in this divorce journey process?
Ooh, really nobody. Honestly, you got to be very protective about your marriage. It's tricky. The people who you bring in, and it should be very limited. Like, I can count on one hand, 2 or 3 fingers, with the exception of my spiritual people, who I've had conversations about my marriage with, who were really able to look at things from a perspective of neutrality. Like, okay, Cortney, like, no, you might be tripping, sis. Like, he got this one. Like, you tripping. You need people like that. If that's your mother, you gotta be careful with mothers too. For me, that was like my best friend. She has the capacity to really look at things and be like, I love you, Cortney, but no, you were wrong. And I got to eat that. My mother is a pastor and she does marital counseling. So I could easily have talked to her about things. I maybe have mentioned things to my mom 2 or 3 times in 17 years. You have to stay away from almost everybody, if I'm being all the way honest, because you have people who have different views on marriage. If they're single, they don't understand what it means to be married. They don't have the capacity to understand what it means to be selfless and consider somebody else first. If they're married, just like people thought I had and our marriage was good. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but like at a certain point, it just wasn't working anymore. People didn't know that. So you can look at a friend who you think has a pretty healthy marriage and it's not. So you may not want to talk to them about it because you don't know what's really happening in their house. Or somebody who's divorced, they might have tainted views on marriage. So you got to be super careful about who you allow to speak on your marriage, speak into your marriage, talk about your marriage, hear about your marriage, because you never know what somebody's vantage point is or what their motives are. But, you know, like I said, I didn't even tell my mother stuff. And I didn't want to tell my mother stuff sometimes because, and my mom's another person who she can look at things and be like, no, you were wrong. But I don't want their opinion to change of him, because when we work this out, we still going to be married and I'm going to be back in love. And my mom might be mad at him because, you know, he said this to her daughter. I don't want that type of animosity, you know, like I want things to be able to move on. So you can't even talk to people about stuff sometimes because you don't want them to hold a grudge. You done moved on. Y'all off on vacation somewhere, having a good time. Life is good. And they still sour faced because you told them he said this. You got to be very, very careful. So I would say spiritual advisors are welcome once you know them, once they have, you know, proven that they can provide you sound quality advice, and very limited friends and family members. I'm telling you, it's literally 2 or 3 people I can count that I talk to, but they had to be, before I got married, they had to be able to tell me about myself. I need to make sure that these people, they can check me if I need to be checked. You need somebody like that because you're not always right. You're not always going to be right. And you need to be able to have somebody in your ear like, well, I can kind of see what they were saying with that. Like, he might have had a point. Like, well, how did you say that? Because the way you telling me you said it, like, you was foul. Like, that's not how you talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, you need somebody to actually give you that perspective. So almost nobody should be I don't know. I hope I
No,
answered
keeping
that
it old
right.
school.
But
No, it's not about answering it right. It's just answering it from your experience to help somebody who might see this. Is again, I literally came up with this video idea because I saw you comment on something with a perspective that I know that can help people, because there are people on the internet so frustrated at their situation, so frustrated at their lifestyles. They're looking for tangible resources that are based on experience, not cloudy moments of grandeur.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
And this is
absolutely.
you have a tangible experience that you're sharing. You're showing something that a lot of people on the net might not understand. You can depart from somebody who's a great person, but you guys evolve differently. You
Yep.
guys are going into two different places. That doesn't make that person a loser. That doesn't make you a loser. I know
Right.
both of y'all in real life. Y'all cool as hell, but that doesn't mean you have to be cool as hell in the union. You know, it
Correct.
it is what it is.
Correct.
It
Yeah.
is what it is. And I just want to literally thank you tonight. Thank you for everybody for coming on. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for everybody for being on
Thank
this
you for
live.
having me.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Courtney, for
everybody.
being here. Listen, Courtney, after the live stream, we're going to talk for a little bit because we both got to go to work
Yeah.
tomorrow and things of that nature. But everybody who's watching this right now, please give Cortney V a shout out. Just show your love in the comments. If you have questions in the comments, I'll follow up on them later. I'll shoot him to Cortney V. You should probably shoot me a video in response. You never know. You never know in this world and things of nature. But please ask your questions in the comments. The title of the video is How to Thrive After Divorce. She dropped so many gems, and I'm super appreciative of it. I want to shoot more videos like this and post more videos like this. If you love my content, please hit me in my link in bio, support my channel, or hit me with the good old Cash App. You heard? You know what I'm saying? But Courtney, thank you for sharing these experiences because they're important. Thank you for sharing this valuable information because I know there's somebody that's going to need it. Thank you for being so expressive. Thank you for showing me an example of maturity in a transition, maturity for your kids, maturity for every situation. Thank you, Damel, in the comments. He says great dialogue. Thank you, Goku, even for trying to hit on Courtney and trying to find out the age range. Thank you, Ro, the realist was in the chat. Big Ro was up in the chat laughing at my nonsense. Thank you, James Ryan, for asking the question. Pardon me for snapping. I'm a New Yorker, it's in our habit. Thank you, Beats by Lonza, for coming through saying good topic, good show. And thank you, Harrison Family Variables. Everybody subscribe to him on YouTube. Everybody have a great day. Make the best decision for your life. This is the KaleafWins Show. Thank you, Cortney V, for joining in. Everybody,
Thank
peace.
you. Thank
and
you.
we are